Now, I don't want to go on a rant here. Actually, what am I saying? Of course I do. That's exactly what I want to do. That's why I'm making this video. Because retro handhelds are great in so many ways, but they are also not great in so many ways. They have annoying quirks, some things about them keep pissing me off, and the hobby itself can be a bit much to deal with sometimes. As a guy who spends most of my time making videos about how much I love these things, sometimes I need to let off some steam. Today I'm going over some of my personal handheld pet peeves, things that drive me nuts, and maybe you've experienced some of these too. Let me know in the comments, and let me know if there's any that you have that I missed. I'd love to have a few more things to be angry about. This is a big list, so buckle up. It's gonna get peevy in here. Let's begin with the actual handhelds themselves. These cute, lovely, cool things that we get that just let us down over and over again. Like, why are so many volume buttons perfectly flush with the shell? Every time I want to adjust the volume, I end up rubbing the side of the handheld looking for buttons like I'm trying to get it in the mood. The only thing I'm in the mood for is to hear my game. Don't get any ideas. Also, on the topic of buttons, sometimes these things have more buttons than a winter coat. That's a Canadian saying, by the way. Power button, home button, function button, turbo button, RGB button, M button, some weird mystery symbol button. How am I supposed to remember which button does which? I can't remember, and that's the handheld's fault. Now, I know that some people love back buttons. I respect your opinion, even though it's wrong. I hate back buttons. I never use them, and I don't like that they're even there. Every time I touch one accidentally, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, what is that thing back there under my finger? Is it alive? Does it bite? And I think we can all agree on this: rattly shoulder buttons. Like, you pick up a handheld and immediately hear something clacking around. For one brief moment, you think it's broken, and then you remember, no, that's just the way they made it. Actually, on the shoulder button topic, some shoulder buttons are so loud they sound like firecrackers. Do the people who make these things not have ears? Lots of handhelds come with screen protectors, but like, can anyone put these things on the first try? I mean, the room was clean 30 seconds ago. Where did all this dust come from? Some handhelds have notoriously bright power LEDs, where the charging light is a super strong glowing dot. I mean, why do I have to get inadvertent laser eye surgery just by looking at my handheld? This one drives me nuts. Bad speaker placement. What kind of goober makes a thing where the speaker fires into my hand? They shouldn't be allowed to make handhelds. Also, some SD card slot covers suck pretty bad. It feels like some manufacturers don't think we'll actually end up using them with how bad these little flaps are made. And can we talk about analog sticks? Like when a device gets dual analog sticks and it can handle like 4 games that actually use sticks? Who are they trying to fool? Me, obviously. Because I fell for it. Actually, speaking of sticks, when a company uses the fact that they're using Hall sticks as a marketing feature, and then you get the device and, Hall or not, the sticks suck. And also, it doesn't even matter because you just end up playing Sega Genesis anyways. And then there's the sticks that are too high up or awkwardly placed so that when I'm using the D-pad or the buttons, the sticks are just there, rubbing up against my thumb, invading my personal space. And these little recessed wells where the sticks are. They make using the sticks easy, but they collect stuff. They should call these the pocket lint buckets. Some handhelds are like, rounded and soft and gentle to the touch, but some have super sharp edges or little rims and scratchy bits that dig new grooves into your hand wrinkles. And we've all been here. The promotional photos of the doodad that you saw online made it look gorgeous, super high quality, but then you open it and see it with your eyes and it gives off a lot more dollar store vibes than you were expecting. Another thing photos can't tell you is how smudgy the plastic will be. You take your fresh new black device out of the box and it looks beautiful, and then 30 seconds later it looks like a toddler with yogurt fingers has been grabbing on it. And why do so many handhelds add ergonomic grips where they're not needed? So many of these things could be just beautiful, simple, elegant devices with simple shapes, but they add these big old booties around back for no good reason. And more times than not, these booties around back aren't compatible with my hand shape. That's the problem with ergonomics in general, is that they always seem to be somebody else's ergonomics. There's a lot of things beyond just handheld hardware that drive me nuts about this retro emulation hobby. You probably have tons too, so let me know in the comments if there's any I missed. The search for the perfect handheld settings is endless. Every time I get a new handheld, I tell myself I'm just gonna play games. And then days later, I'm still comparing aspect ratios, integer scaling, interpolation methods, and wondering why life feels so much shorter lately. And have you ever spent 3 hours tweaking shaders, overlays, filters, and color settings only to arrive at a result that looks almost exactly like how the game looked before you started? Of course you have. We all have. We keep doing it. We never learn. As for game collections, every retro handheld owner eventually becomes a digital dragon sitting on a mountain of ROMs. Thousands of games, endless possibilities. And yet somehow I still play the same 5 over and over again on repeat. When you're gaming, at first, save states are liberating. You can just spam that save state hotkey and know that every minutia of progress is locked in. And then 6 months later, you have 148 save states for one chapter of one game and have no idea which one contains the part that you need to go back to. Or, even worse, when you mess up which hotkey saves and which one loads. Yay, I just beat a tough boss, let's save. Oops, now I'm back to before I beat the boss and I hate this hobby. It's not just save states. Your game collection data can balloon out of control too. There are days when I've spent so much time fixing metadata, scraping artwork, and arranging menus that I forgot to actually play a game. It's like cleaning your room so that you can avoid doing homework. Then when you go to scrape your art, you realize that a bunch of games got identified wrong. Somehow Mario is represented by a picture of a tractor, Zelda is represented by a Chinese boy band poster, and half your library is missing entirely. And why can't emulation software developers just agree on the folder name structure? This doodad wants Mega Drive, that one wants Genesis, another wants Sega MD. Like, can we not just pick one name and stick with it? And of course, every handheld owner has dealt with having multiple copies of the same game. You see them there in your collection. 7 copies of Sim Ant for the Super Nintendo. Do you keep them all just in case? Or delete all but one and risk not having the best version of a game you'll never play? We are such creatures of habit, us retro gamers. A brand new handheld arrives, new chipset, new screen, new controls, so much possibility. But then the first thing I do is just install the exact same games I've been carrying around since 2015. But by far, the worst thing about this retro handhelds hobby is that we need to remember to subscribe to TechDweeb. Like, I just bought a handheld. Surely I shouldn't also need to push a button, right? Now I want to talk about Android handhelds specifically because there are lots of Android-specific quirks that drive me nuts. And you're gonna hear about them. This is like therapy to me. Starting with frickin' Android gestures. Why do I have to do every gesture 3 times before it works? Or the opposite, when gestures happen by accident. Like I want to swipe in my save state bar, but instead Android switches over to my email. Damn it, Brenda, I don't want to touch base. I'm trying to play Bad Dudes. Also, every flavor of Android is slightly different. Every manufacturer adds on their own extra bullcrap on top of something that is probably just fine on its own. Like I just want to calibrate my analog sticks. Why does it take me 27 clicks through 5 levels of custom app menus to do something so basic? And then there's the fact that Android is a tangled web of apps and launchers. I open a launcher to open an app that is a front end to open another emulator to open a game that is really just a launcher for something else. Somewhere in this stack of launchers, there's allegedly a video game. Back in the day, every emulator had different menus. RetroArch has addressed this, thank goodness, but on Android, standalone emulators still have their own entirely different settings menus that each do things in a slightly different way. We've all been here, everything was working yesterday, today an update happened, and of course I do the update because the notification told me I should, and then it broke, and now here I am rebuilding my entire handheld setup from scratch instead of witnessing the birth of my son. Great. Have you noticed that some apps have no problem using the SD card to store their data and save states, but some can't? Like the Dolphin emulator seems to think that it's impossible to use an SD card, but PPSSPP has been living the SD card life this whole time without complaining. And this tangled mess of emulators on Android creates a web of confusion. You figure it out at the time, but then months later you're staring at a game collection wondering why one game launches in emulator A, another in emulator B, and a third one through some app that you don't even remember installing. Bluetooth is dark magic. I think we can all agree on that. Your handheld can see your phone, laptop, television, and the neighbor's smart toilet, but the controller in pairing mode directly in front of it, apparently invisible. Linux handhelds are a lot more simple and console-like, but even they suffer their own quirks, especially when you get into custom firmwares that are each unique and annoying in their own way. Like the hotkeys. Just when you've finally memorized all the shortcuts, you switch devices or firmwares and discover that they're completely different. Now you're trying to fast forward, but you just somehow switched shaders. Why do they even have a hotkey for shader switching? Is that really something I need to be able to do on the fly? Updating emulators is one thing, but updating the operating system is a particularly nerve-wracking experience. Most of the time everything is fine, but there's always a chance that it'll get messed up. And if it does, that could be like a weekend worth of work. And this is kind of unavoidable, but it's still annoying how some settings are buried so deeply that finding them feels less like navigating software and more like digging through ancient tomes of forbidden knowledge. And with Linux, there's the ambiguity. I load up a game and I'm like, am I in some standalone emulator? My hotkeys aren't working, but is that just because RetroArch is being weird? Am I in Portmaster? Or am I still in the front end? At a certain point, I just stop asking questions and keep pushing buttons until games happen. That's the TechDweeb way. If you're here watching my channel, you probably own more than just one doodad. Probably many more. Or many more. Every handheld collector has told themselves this lie. This is the one. The final handheld. The last device I'll ever need. Like, who are you trying to fool? Only yourself. And you keep falling for it. Interest in this hobby is a double-edged sword. Sometimes I'll click on a review for a handheld that I don't actually want, but I'm in the mood to watch the video and I'm kind of curious to see what it's like. And then 10 minutes later, I've convinced myself that I desperately need one and always have. The reviewers are the real ones we should blame. These YouTube guys making a living off showing us these things and, surprise, surprise, they're all amazing and now we want them all. I mean, don't these dorks have better things to do with their lives than push handhelds on us innocent normies? And why do we keep buying them? Like, you spend years building a collection of handhelds, each with their own strengths and unique features, and then you just end up using the same one over and over because the others are upstairs. So there you are. You have too many handhelds, and you've convinced yourself that you don't use or need this handheld anymore. So you sell it or give it away, and then within 48 hours your brain suddenly remembers all the reasons you loved it. And sometimes that story has a sequel. You rebuy the exact same handheld you sold 6 months ago, except now it costs more. That's like a tax on your poor choices. Handhelds don't guarantee happiness. You can have thousands of games across a dozen handhelds and still somehow find yourself staring at menus wondering what to play. It's the Netflix effect. Too much choice, can't choose anything. And it's hard to break the cycle. Now, not every pet peeve is a problem. Some are just quirky things that exist around the hobby and end up not being so bad after all. Like, I carry a handheld with me almost everywhere I go, and lots of days I never even turn it on. But somehow it's comforting knowing that it's there. My mom calls it my emotional support Game Boy. She says it as a joke, but like, she's right. She gets it. People talk about backlogs like they're a burden. I don't know. I kinda like knowing that there's always another adventure waiting whenever I'm ready for it. One of the nice parts about having way too many handhelds is that we can gift them to deserving dweebs. Sometimes a handheld that's been collecting dust on your shelf ends up becoming someone else's favorite thing in the world. Lots of the things that I've complained about have a bright side. Like, sometimes I spend more time organizing menus and choosing themes and tweaking settings than actually playing games. But if I enjoyed doing it, was that really wasted time? I don't think so. And regarding the hoarding, I have a hard time throwing things away. I have so much old stuff, but everything on my shelf reminds me of a different point in my life. Different jobs, different basements of different houses, different phases. All of this stuff is just part of the story of me. Handhelds get beat down and scuffed up over time, but that never bothered me. Every scratch, nicked button, and worn thumbstick tells a story. The story of how much I use this thing and the good times that it's brought me. I'm covered in scars, so why shouldn't my handheld be the same? It's like we spend so much time chasing the perfect handheld that sometimes we forget that the best handheld isn't the most powerful one. It's the one that was there during a long flight, a rough week, a boring commute, or just a lazy Sunday afternoon. Because at the end of the day, all these quirky little frustrations exist because we care about these little things. Nobody spends hours tweaking shaders, organizing ROMs, arguing about chipsets, or hunting for the perfect device unless they genuinely love this hobby. So sure, handhelds can be annoying, confusing, expensive, frustrating, and occasionally feel like they're purposefully trying to fight back against us, but they're also little boxes full of adventures, memories, and tiny moments of joy. And honestly, that's probably worth putting up with a few rattly shoulder buttons. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye bye.